to you as well, the members on the committee.
Our income, and that's what's made me want to get on this board to make sure we're doing the right things that we should be doing to help fix the lagoon. Other than that, that's it.
What do you do for a living?
Fishing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're a
I had to basically move my whole inshore operation offshore. We still run in the river, but it's a joke. It really is. It's kind of sad to say this is our waterway.
Well said.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Waylon Locklear. I'm super glad to be here. And I've been in water and wastewater treatment for 33 years. I'm the water production assistant superintendent for the city of Melbourne. I was asked to be a part of this committee by Commissioner Hutchinson, and I was like, so I had to read about it. So I read about it, and I'm like, hey, you know, that kind of is in the wheelhouse a little bit. And I'm passionate as well about the lagoon and the river. I just, I see it has changed so much over the last couple of decades, and it's sad. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of things that can be done to help clean it up. And I hope I can contribute to this board and help you guys in any way. And I look forward to working with you all and getting to know you.
Welcome to you both. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
My name is Jim Torpy, longtime Cocoa Beach resident. I've been on this committee a couple of years, I guess, something like that. And I'm retired, which is good. I highly recommend it to everybody. So, that's about it.
I'm Bob Day. I'm a charter member of this committee, was on this committee, and let's see, I've lived here in Cocoa Beach since '71. Graduated from, I went to BCC and went to FIT, graduated from what's now UCF. I worked for DEP, I worked for the county, I worked for St. John's as part of the Lagoon National Estuary Program. I'm also on the chair of the Land Management Committee, which is working on several things as well. And I will say that Melbourne has a pretty good sustainability program. I know everybody's that work on that. So, yep, exactly.
Okay, and I'm Adria Perez. I've been on the committee for about a year and a half. I've lived in Cocoa Beach for six-ish years. I think we're doing great things on the committee. I have 3 kids that go to school here in Cocoa Beach. I really want to see Cocoa Beach be a thriving place where they maybe want to raise a family one day. You know, we can keep the lagoon clean and quality of life lovely here. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. I'm a writer and a professor. I teach writing. I've worked with a lot of companies that work in sustainability, solar development, carbon capture, things like that. On a freelance basis, I have my own freelance business. And that's my story. All right, so now that we're all introduced, we will move on then to staff reports.
All right, so I have quite a few things for you guys tonight. These are just general updates for our new members, just to let you guys know what we have going on with our city environmental and sustainability programs. So sustainability events that we held in January, we had the Beach Bucket Ribbon Cutting Program on the 28th. We had over 40 volunteers attend, and we cleaned up 43 pounds of trash on our beach near First Street South. So there are now 17 beach bucket cleanup stations available throughout the city. They're there all the time. People can go grab a bucket and clean up trash on the beach whenever they would like. They're available at all of the beach accesses from First Street South to 14th Street South. There's 2 stations at Shepherd Park and 1 station at Fisher Park. I attended the 5 high school biology classes in January and played the game Lagoonology with them, where they learn about stormwater and different pollutant sources that are going to the lagoon, like fertilizers and dog waste, and they learn about all of those things through playing this game. They also learned about City of Cocoa Beach stormwater and lagoon related projects that we have going on or have completed. So that was a great opportunity for us. And then we also had the Surfrider Foundation at Friday Fest on January 20th, where they talked about our plastics and single-use plastic and styrofoam ban that is going into effect on April 22nd for events held on city property. And for the new members, that resolution, that policy is something that came out of the Sustainability Committee and then was passed by the Commission back in November. Was it November? I
Yes,
think it was in November, so I can send that to you all so that you can kind of see what the Sustainability Committee had worked on for that resolution. Upcoming programs that we have in February, we have the annual sea oat planting that is happening on February 18th. That is a Saturday. It'll be from 9 to 11:30 a.m. at Shepherd Park. And then for Friday Fest this month, we are working on getting some type of sustainability or environmental group there to share that information as you guys requested last year. And then today and tomorrow, 4 city staff are attending the Sustainable Transportation Expo, which is being held in Cocoa. So it's myself, our Public Works Director, and 2 members from our fleet crew are attending to learn about alternative fuels and electric vehicle options for transportation, possibly looking at options we may be able to implement into our city operations to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. The Sustainability Awards program went live today. The full details can be found at the city website at cityofcocobeach.com/community sustainability award. And then the applications close on March 19th. And I think it's on the agenda later, so I think Adria will touch more on that program later. Okay, in front of you, you have a pamphlet. That is our new low impact development pamphlet. This is part of our stormwater pollutant discharge elimination system permit through the state of Florida. This permit is this pamphlet, we had to develop this pamphlet, and it will be provided to our residents to encourage low impact development use on their private properties, and just to kind of outline some options that are available to residents and businesses. And then lastly, the last thing I have for you guys tonight is we have launched a new online permitting portal for dune trimming and restoration. So if you guys know before, this would be done through emails with me, and to make it a little more streamlined, we've upgraded it to the same system that is used for all city building permits and that type of thing. So yes, permits are easier to find for dune trimming and dune restoration now on the city website. And that is all I have for you.
Kelsey, you said that this is available to residents, or how?
Yes, that's a great question. So this is available in the printed form at this time. It will also be attached to building permits when they're issued. So they'll be available through that permitting portal when they receive the permit.
So they don't have to, it's only suggested.
So our city code does have some requirements for stormwater retention on property, and certain percentages that have to be obtained depending on, your zoning and your specific application and your lot cover. So some stormwater improvements such as LID may be recommended, but that is to the discretion of the city engineer and to follow what is with our code. I don't issue those types of permits.
Gotcha.
Kelsey, real quick, does with your dune beach permitting address certain crossovers like we've experienced recently?
What was that?
Would it address like the crossover that we and I have been talking about recently, the one that gets exceptionally long, the permitting part of it?
Oh, I see what you're asking. So a dune crossover structure would still be subject to general building permit requirements.
Right. So they would have to go through the city for.
So that is still dictated by the state of Florida.
Right. Understand.
Yeah, but this application is for trimming sea grapes and for removing invasive plants, that type of thing, just to make sure that we're not
Doing the right
removing sea grapes from the dunes.
Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kelsey. Then we'll move on to old business. We have the Community Sustainability Award. So that was, I forget what the language was. It was not approved by the commission, but consented. Was that something like that? So the city commission did consent and say they're on board with our program. So
I have a copy of that.
as Kelsey
It's
said.
approved of the consent.
Yes, exactly that. So we have moved forward, like Kelsey said, the application is live. So for the new committee members, the Community Sustainability Award was an award program that we, I do think it was the brainchild of Kelsey, sort of planting seeds because she thought it was a good idea. But it kind of started because Freedom 7 Elementary has this big sort of sustainability project that they do every year. And those kids came in the last few years at the end of the school year to present their projects. And part of their project is doing sort of a lot of work in the community, outreach, building awareness, doing active service projects. And so we kind of thought that it would be great for our committee to be able to recognize the efforts of groups like that are working really hard and making a difference in the community and teaching others how they can make a difference as well. So that was sort of the impetus to say, there should be some sort of formal recognition for people, individuals, groups, organizations that are doing work like this. So we put together, and I know that it was sent to you in the email, what the award program is. This committee worked hard to put together a ranking structure and sort of a mission statement for what that award would be. And so this is the first time that we're going to be giving the award this year. So hopefully we get a lot of really good applicants that can show through that application process, what they've done in the community, and then we will, as a committee, rank those and choose an awardee, and they will get recognition from the City Commission, and there's a perpetual plaque we would like to put together, so there's some things we need to put in place for that. So that will be upcoming, and then it's our inaugural award, so it should be pretty exciting to recognize the winner, and also those who are applying and doing good work in our community.
Absolutely.
So that's happening now. It's just started. In that packet that Kelsey sent, there's a timeline, so you can see all of the
Do you
dates
want
that
a
we're
copy
working
so you can
towards.
refer to it
Me?
if you wanted to talk about the timeline?
Yes, thank you. So the timeline, the nomination period is open now. It closes in March. And then there's sort of this back and forth process where they're notified that they received the nomination, and then we will review those. And if we have questions for the nominees, maybe about clarification or anything else like that, we will ask them by March 29th. April 4th is they're providing responses. And then in April is when we will start discussing and looking over those nominees and choosing an award winner. So the presentation, right now we're shooting for April 20th, which coincides with Earth Day, which is kind of what we were going for. Celebration. So that's one thing that we are working on this year that's new. Do you guys have any questions or suggestions or?
I have a question.
Yes.
This is the first day that it's available. How is the city putting out the word?
That's a great question. So we put out a Facebook post today. It's also available on the city website. There's a whole new page for it, cityofcocobeach.com/community sustainability award. It will appear on the front page of the website. At the top is like one of those news flash banners. It'll also be sent out as a CBNN. And then I have also personally sent out the information to a few local groups that I know about. I sent it to the vice principal at the high school. We'll be sending it out to Freedom 7 as well. Sent it to KBB, Surfrider, Beach Bucket Foundation, asking them to forward it on. I've also sent it to the Brevard Sustainability Working Group, hoping that they would be able to forward that on to groups they know about doing work here in Cocoa Beach. But if you guys have any other suggestions on how we might spread the word, I sent it to Cocoa Beach Main Street also. Please let me know.
Good. I don't recall. I remember we went through a lot of discussion on this. But is anybody else in Brevard County doing this? Be the first.
Not that I know of.
When I did research, just for ideas,
Yeah.
I didn't see
I
anyone
did the same.
local
Okay.
that was doing
one-
anything, yeah.
So that's something we need to brag about.
First.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's a really good thing.
Groundbreaking award.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think Orange County did that, and it's, I can't remember the name of the gentleman who was kind of the leader of that group, but, again, yeah, I agree, I'm not aware of any group locally that's doing this.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments, input, feedback? All right, and Kelsey, thank you for all your efforts in getting the word out there for that.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, then we'll move on to new business. We will discuss the 2023 meeting dates and times. So currently we meet on is it the first Wednesday? Is that something that we want to change? Someone have feedback on that?
Works for me.
As of right now, it's fine.
Okay, it works for me too. All right, so if there is no objection, then we'll keep the sort of meeting schedule that we have had. And we'll move on to 2023 objectives for this committee. Okay, so I have a list. I don't want to go first. So anyone who cares to pipe up with their ideas, their kind of goals or input for 2023, please feel free to share, and we'll see how we can tackle those.
Yeah, I got some ideas.
Okay, all right.
So I'm on the water every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go by the Dempsey Park boat ramp. I see now we have a whole bunch of mangroves in front of the seawall there. Are those gonna be there permanently, or are those there to be transplanted somewhere else? Because that's like the last known park for anybody to go fishing from shore publicly, besides the causeway. And you know, on the causeway, it's a joke. There's like no fish with jet skiers going all up and down. So it's like, I looked at that and I go, why are we trying to plant the last good view of people where they can go to a public park and go fishing off of? I mean, they just built that brand new seawall there.
So the mangroves are intended to be there permanently.
Right, that's the living shoreline, right? Or part of it.
That
yeah.
is the Living Shoreline project.
Gotcha. And what's the whole purpose of the mangroves? To clean the water?
And to, so the main there's several different goals behind the Living Shoreline. One is because mangroves remove nitrogen and phosphorus from the lagoon, so we receive Save Our Indian River Lagoon funding for that. But in addition to that, Cocoa Beach is lined with over 100 miles of seawall, beach, or lagoon front property. So it is a demonstration project of what residents may be able to implement along their seawall at their properties.
So let me ask you this. Who owns or who controls the 520 Causeway on the south side and on the north side?
So the 520 Causeway is owned by DOT. It's a state road, but the city has an agreement with DOT. The city maintains Bicentennial Park, but the rest of the causeway is under DOT maintenance control.
Because, I mean, right there, you're gonna have the most runoff out of anywhere. I was like, why don't they put mangroves there? Then they don't have to worry about shoring issues from when the hurricanes come.
There are projects lined up for Bicentennial Park.
Gotcha.
Those are in the planning process right now.
Okay.
Don't
So
we
once
want
those
to
mangroves grow, they can only fish off the dock.
So you can fish off the dock, and there's gaps on the sides, and then in the middle, there's a large area where it's just low-growing grass. So it won't be tall mangroves across the whole shoreline.
Okay.
And don't forget, you got oysters in there in the gabions that are gonna be hopefully settling points for new oysters. If you're also have put in some already that will do quite a bit of filtration as well.
Yes.
So how much money does the city of Cocoa Beach get for grants for doing projects for the waterway, like mangroves, oysters, and stuff like that?
So
Is it like a grant and you can only use it for a certain thing?
yes, so when you apply for grant money, usually you have to have a project in mind, and it depends what grant you're applying for. For example, the Save Our Indian River Lagoon program will give you a certain dollar amount per pound of nitrogen that your project is expected to remove.
Because
But
I've been part
other-
of the whole clam restoration, and we've been planting clams in the Thousand Islands.
Mhm.
And those are actually living clams.
Yes.
And we call them super clams based off of, we took clams from our river that have lived through all these algae blooms and all this pollution, and then bred them. And it was like nobody knew about that going on with the city.
Yeah, so that was a project through the Brevard Zoo.
No, it was through Blair Wiggins.
Okay, yes, that other project that's over
Yeah,
there. Yes,
yeah.
that was not done by the city.
Correct.
That was done by a different
Correct. So
group.
I'm wondering how can we do funding to do that, because bringing the clams back will definitely help clean. More
So-
than mangroves.
So the city did a pilot study with the Brevard Zoo. We put a clam test site out. They did 100 test sites across the lagoon, and our area was not a recommended area for future restoration or clams specifically because of the survival rate and the salinity and all sorts of different conditions. There are areas that are more appropriate. things like seagrass and oysters tend to have better survivability in our area.
And they did do a test out here?
In the Thousand Islands off Houseboat Cut.
That's where I'm at. So we just went and checked them after 8 months, and we've got all the data for how many have lived, how many have died.
So I think you're referring to the NEP funded area that is farther north in Thousand Islands. I'm just relaying the data
Yeah,
to you
no,
that
no,
I
no,
know
okay.
about with the zoo. So if you know of a different project and you have that data, I mean, feel free to
Okay.
share it at a
Okay.
meeting when you have that.
All right, because yeah, that's where we were putting all the clams, is in the Thousand Islands off of Houseboat Cut.
Okay,
So I was just wondering why they would say it's not sustainable.
okay. Unless there's another site. This is just what I'm familiar with the study we did with the zoo.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's all my questions.
Thank you. Anyone else have 2023 goals, ideas?
One of the things we've been working on with the land management committee is the beach and dune management plan and a turtle lighting issue. Again, those are probably two things that we need to be tracking in the future years. Certainly the award to go back and once we've experienced what's happened this time, we may want to make some adjustments to that, maybe expand it, maybe change it slightly, whatever. So that's probably another thing we need to have on the list as well.
Okay. So sea turtle lighting, dune management,
Did you do, yeah.
and sort of the evolution of the award.
Right.
Okay. Excellent. Anyone else have ideas?
I have an idea.
Yes.
Thanks for asking. It's reaching for the stars, but if you look up and down the eastern seaboard of Florida, all of the inlets and ports, they're open to the ocean, and they have healthy ecosystems. They don't have a problem with grass. I know that the locks are in place for sediment and silt control, and so that, you know, for the port. But I would like to talk to the Port Authority about opening the locks periodically for an extended period of time to allow fresh seawater and this may be reaching for the stars, and it may have already been done. I'm not sure if this committee has ever tried to go after that or work towards that, but I think we would see our lagoon, our river, return much quicker with fresh seawater. The clarity would come back to the water. You know, you would see the fishing would improve, the grasses would improve. But you know, I know that's, you know, political, and I know that that's you know, it's a high reaching goal, but I think it's something that I would like to work on. If it's not something that's already been pursued.
They've talked about it by Patrick. So, one question real quick. So I agree, it'd be awesome fishing. The problem is that's just a Band-Aid, and it's just transferring all the shit water we have in the lagoon now into the ocean. It doesn't really clean it, it just puts the pollution into somewhere else.
Well, maybe so, but we have stormwater runoff in Jupiter, Stewart. We have stormwater runoff in Palm Beach and
But there's
Boynton Beach.
sewage spills almost every month now.
I understand, but those same challenges we face up and down the east coast of Florida with the intercoastal. And if you look at the inlets, they're open. If you go to Sebastian,
Mhm.
look at the clarity of the water. Look at
It's clean.
how healthy the seagrass is. Yeah, flushing the lagoon out will obviously send some out to the ocean, but the ocean is a large body of water, and this is a confined body that needs to be flushed. And again, it may, you know, you guys may have already tackled this and approached this. And I know that it's a silt sediment issue. I believe that because, you know, they've had problems with the locks. But, and, you know, the port is growing. we got a lot of ships sitting offshore waiting to come in, and, there's a lot more business there, so it makes it even more challenging, per se, because with more business becomes more power.
One thing, because there is some work going on in that area. Okay, FIT's got a
FIT.
study going on looking at the port, not necessarily opening the locks, but connecting the area of the west basin of the port to the lagoon and carrying kind of tidal gates
Okay.
so that when the tide comes up, water can flush through
Cool.
that. And there's,
Okay.
I know that they've had some funding for the last couple of years, and I think they're in the process of setting up a pilot project.
Okay.
And I don't know exactly where that is at the moment. I do know that there was another study that was done by FIT, Gary Zerrillo, in fact, that looked at several locations for possible connections to the oceans, large pipes or whatever, not necessarily an inlet.
Uh-huh.
Inlet is expensive to
Sure.
operate, to say the least.
And maintain.
If you look at Sebastian, it's basically an inlet with riprap, the lining both sides.
And it's a man-made inlet that gets maintenance every few years.
Yes.
Another issue that FIT is looking at along with the study up at the port is that what would be the biological impacts of that, because we have several species in the lagoon that exist on estuaries and salinity rather than
Correct.
full strength seawater.
Yes.
And that's a concern as well. And I know, again, they're looking at that. The project, as I understand it, is ongoing.
Okay.
They had another set of funding that came with that, and so there's projects underway. It's not a perfect situation, but it's
Sure.
it's movement. There's movement.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, that's a goal that I would like to look more into, but.
Yeah, I'm not quite so sure how that would fit with us as a sustainability committee for the city, but
Okay.
perhaps it's
I don't know that
something we would have
it's
concern.
in our sphere of influence policy-wise.
Okay.
However, making recommendations of, because it does affect our area.
Right.
Just, to be informed and have a voice is something that we can do.
Yeah. Great. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't know. I don't know as a city budget would handle a new member.
I think it has to be a partnership.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, and the port, generates a lot of revenue, and,
yeah.
and we also have to look at, like, the tidal influence, what is the NVGD 88 on low tide and high tide? How does that affect your seawalls and your property boundaries and lines? So, there's a lot of things that need to be looked at, but I believe it's a partnership, probably between Brevard County, Merritt Island, Cocoa Beach, Cocoa, the Port Authority. It's not a Cocoa Beach funding the whole project. I think it's the city of Melbourne. We're all, everyone is getting grant money to put in baffle boxes and a lot of other things to improve stormwater runoff. And we all know that that's, the key source of pollution for our river, right? And that and septic tanks.
Is that a plan for Cocoa Beach to put baffle boxes in at every storm drain that leads to the lagoon?
Well, I'm not sure about Cocoa Beach, but Melbourne's built several.
No, I know, but I'm saying like that the whole thing is to cause less stormwater going into our lagoon from our city standpoint. I mean, is that something that Cocoa Beach is going to be doing?
So extensive backflow boxes, I do not believe are identified in the stormwater master plan, but the city is utilizing different methods of stormwater management. Backflow boxes are great in areas where you have space and you have the depth for them. The water table here is very high, so backflow boxes are not always the most effective for us here, but there's other things that the city has implemented.
And the city is working on a stormwater management plan, a revision to that. If I'm
So
not
the
mistaken.
stormwater master plan is complete.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's recent though. The update is fairly recent, if I recall correctly.
Yes, it finished within the past year, I believe.
Okay.
You said the city is working on the master plan?
It's been completed.
Oh, okay. Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That may be available on the website. I can check if you guys would like to look at that.
I will.
It identifies future projects. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Waylon, did you have any other?
No, thank you for listening.
course. All right, who else wants to chime in?
I've got just some comments. Bob already mentioned sea turtle and sea lighting. We spent a lot of time discussing that, but it hasn't gotten the recommendations to the Commission for Ordinance is not complete yet, so we still need to do some work on that. The things that we have accomplished, the two things that I can think we accomplished in the last year was the Sustainability Award and the ordinance preventing single-use plastics at city events. We started talking about smoking on the beach. Before we could get to it, the Leisure Services Committee proposed it. That did not go well a couple weeks ago at the City Commission meeting, but there were two new commissioners, one of which said, well, first of all, what the Leisure Committee proposed was no smoking in the parks, not the beaches. And one of the commissioners said he'd be wide open to talking about it for the beach, so that makes two. So I think we should pursue that also, unless somebody doesn't like that idea. It's been done in Indian Harbor Beach, or in the Atlantic, which one?
I think it was Indian Harbor.
I think it was Indian Harbor Beach.
Yeah.
And
India ones.
you know, they're able to do it, and if you listen at the commission meeting, there were a couple of very emotional representatives from Surfrider saying, you know, this is ridiculous. We need to stop the smoking on the beach because of all the cigarette butts. So I would like to see us pursue that also.
I'm on board with that, Jim. And at the last, I don't know if it was the last commission meeting, the commission meeting I attended where I presented the Sustainability Award, there was also someone that came up to speak from SWAT, which is Students Working Against Tobacco. And she came up to talk about banning smoking on the beaches and in the parks from the students' perspective, and you know, something that they're trying to, you know, work towards getting students to stop smoking and de-glamorize the idea of tobacco. And so I don't know, there was no comment on it, so I can't speak from, you know, if there was support there for that, but I was interested in seeing that there are other groups that are interested in this as well, and have research to support it too, from a health point of view. So I think, and like you said, Surfrider is very passionate about this. So I would love to see us pursue it as well and find the right way to make the argument for it, and maybe even create sort of a coalition or partnerships with other organizations that have the sort of the research and background to support it as well.
Another thing that comes to mind, we talked about an inventory of energy use and such like that. Was that ever completed?
The greenhouse gas inventory?
Yeah, and that, and you know, basically inventory of electrical use, fuel use, those sorts of things that we were looking at a few years ago, and I don't believe were those ever completed? I don't think they were.
Yeah, the greenhouse gas inventory was completed and it was accepted by the commission, I think in January or February of last year.
Okay.
At that same meeting, the commission set the goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2050,
Okay.
based on that report.
So maybe we need to do kind of an update on where we are and that sort of thing, any progress and such like.
Was there a plan with that report that it would be updated in a certain time period, or was it just a one and done?
So typically greenhouse gas inventory reports are updated. I don't remember what it says in the report. It's usually somewhere between every 3 to 5 years because it does take time for the data to become available. So the last one we did was 2019 data. So at this point, 2022 data would probably not be readily available.
Okay.
So
All right.
I leave that up to you guys, whatever you want to do. I can try to find what I can if you want to work on that.
You know, again, maybe what has been done for any progress on that subject. You know,
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, how many pounds, what projects or what policies are in place.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more comment regarding 2023, mainly for Jamie and Waylon's benefit, but we used to have some monthly briefings or sessions, information sessions for our residents on various topics. Attendance at some of them was very good and some not very good. So we shelved that but I'm not sure where we are as far as just public awareness that we have a sustainability committee, what we're working on and stuff. So perhaps we need to rethink some public events so people can learn about what we're doing and why, and get their input too.
The one thing I thought along that line, Jim, was that we have there not only this committee, but also Land Management Committee and Leisure Services kind of has an outreach to the public. And perhaps if we join forces on that, maybe appeared occasionally at Friday Fest or what have you, was having a table with all three of the public-facing committees. There may be others in the city that I'm not thinking of, but I would say that this committee, Land Management and Leisure Services, are ones that the public probably interacts with more than anybody else. So, and again, if we could do something or other jointly with them, representing the city, that might be something that could make a difference.
Cool.
I like that idea. Something I was going to talk about too, and it's sort of all connected to that, is sort of what is our outreach strategy, and I'm still pushing for this sort of branding angle for the committee, so we have, you know, either a catchphrase or a slogan or something, so we can use that as our angle for outreach, something catchy that, you know, residents and people here can say, yeah, that's what the city is doing for sustainability. And I think that connects with if we're going to events, if we are making partnerships with other organizations. I think it's a way to make clear what our message is, who we are, and then work from there to, you know, work on these outreach events. And so I think the first step there is sort of solidify our branding.
I think a slogan's good.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at any big brand, or people remember brands from jingles or slogans.
Exactly.
And I think that, yeah, absolutely, keeping Cocoa Beach clean or whatever.
So write down, make a list, write those down, bring them to the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll give you a list of.
Yeah, so we have a working list.
We have a list.
Yes,
That's pretty
Probably need to
corny.
send-
We have a working
send some of
list.
those out to Whalen and Jenk.
yes, we have a working list, and I think
Some
it's,
of them were corny. You're right.
yes. But I think it's a good first step to, you know, building up our outreach program.
Absolutely. I agree. And because you can have a banner on the front of your booth table at the, at Friday Fest, or, you know, when they see that banner, and they see that banner, and they see that banner, they're gonna think, oh, that's a.
That's those guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're keeping our
Exactly.
natural resources, healthy.
So now we're down to your list.
Well, you guys pretty much touched on everything. I just brought up the branding, which is my last thing. I think we should, I had Friday Fest written down, and I really like the idea of having a city table as opposed to, I mean, maybe later we could do, once we have all our branding and our signage in place, we can have our own table, but, you know, sharing that with the city and sort of being, you know, public facing with the other boards and departments. I like that idea. I think that's a really good idea. I think we should have something compelling there at our events. If we're doing Friday Fest, for example, not just standing there with, come and talk to us, I don't know, like a game or some message or some other, you know, partnering with another organization we've talked about that has something interesting for people to come and learn or do. So that, I think, if we could get at least one of those on the calendar this year for Friday Fest with the city or with, or, you know, the other boards of the city, or without, I would really like to see that happen.
Kelsey, does the city have an EnviroScape? You know what that is?
We don't have one of those.
Yeah, probably would borrow one from somewhere, because that's kind of an interactive thing.
Possibly. We opted for Lagoonology
MRC
instead of
has
buying
one, right,
that.
Bob?
Pardon?
MRC has one.
I don't think so, but I could
They don't.
remember.
I think they do have that.
I think they do. I think that's somebody they'd sure lend it out to us
Oh,
probably.
yeah.
What is that?
Or invite them to be there with us too.
It's a thing about the size, about this big, that has all sorts of things. You could imitate stormwater and all sorts of other problems that can go to a water body.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
it basically shows
Nestle's
every-
chocolate
how-
works good as real
Yeah.
money stuff.
The chocolate's used for the dog poop, I think, is that right?
Right.
There's, I mean, there's all these, it's a kid's game, but it's very effective. Yeah.
So that's my list. Does anyone else have any ideas?
And if we have others, we can get them to Kelsey or you or both.
Yes, exactly.
So Adria, I have two things. if
Yes,
I could.
Kelsey.
So one thing that's required by the committee, that is in the committee, what is it, the rules of the committee, I forget what it's called right now. Yes, that, whatever the commission adopted, that document, and it says that the committee has to submit annual budget recommendations to the commission. That needs to happen soon,
Okay.
probably by the April meeting.
Okay.
So that'll be something that needs to be discussed in March. Last year, I can send what you guys had requested last year. No new items were added from the year prior. So everything that was new last year was not included. So just so you know where we are with that. But I'll send that out to everybody so we can consider that. But that definitely needs to happen before April. And then the last thing that I have is the sustainability plan is now 5 years old.
Yep.
And a lot of things in it are quite outdated. So I would like for the committee to possibly consider taking a second look at that plan.
Okay.
Where do you see that?
It's on the website, I can send that to you.
And so what would a revamp of that look like, Kelsey, do you think? I'm just trying to think of it in my head. I know that's kind of, is that something we could take a working group for, or I can't see us just coming and having 5 items to change in there and voting on it in the next meeting, so
You know.
what would how would you foresee sort of that process?
So if somebody wants to kind of tackle this and make it their thing, like Adria kind of took on the award, if somebody wants to take this on similar, we can work on it together and kind of bring updates back to the committee. But the reason I bring this up is because there are things in the sustainability plan that technically should have already been done that may have been an unrealistic goal. So I would like to see more realistic goals come out of an update. We could look at what other cities, how they put theirs together.
It sounds like you've looked at this a little bit. I wonder if you could possibly flag those things and kind of ship them out, send them out to us. Could that be something you could do for us?
I mean, I can send you the whole, are you asking for the whole plan?
Well, yeah.
With your
what I'm
comments,
looking
I
looking
think.
for is the area, since you're familiar with it and you know again what you spoke of that's either out of date or hasn't been done or that sort of thing. And I wonder if you could flag, give us a copy where that's flagged and where we need to be looking at.
Okay.
Because I think that would be very helpful to.
What ideas are realistic and which ideas are not?
So for example, there's something in the plan about updating to electric vehicles by like 20 something.
Yeah.
And that when we're thinking about large budgetary items, this is something that needs to be built into a 10-year, 20-year capital improvement plan. This isn't something that we can do overnight. And building infrastructure for these types of things also takes time. So that is one of like the big ones. Something else is the greenhouse gas inventory. It says we should complete a greenhouse gas inventory. We've now done that. So do we stop there, or do we identify how often it should be completed, maybe a next step beyond that? So, basically, if something in the plan is going to require some type of budget requirement, it needs to really be kind of thought out and discussed with those departments that it will affect.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So when do you want that list by?
So I can send you the plan, and I can
But you were
flag.
saying you want to redo the whole map, the 5-year plan, or was this?
So just taking a look at it to see if there are things that should be updated that are out of date, because if the plan says something should have been done by, I think it says we need to have a fleet transition plan by 2020. Well, we don't have one, and it's 2023, so we may need to rethink about how we can accomplish a fleet transition plan, because that takes staff time, that might take money. We need to do research on what applications are appropriate for our fleet and the things that we have, so just, it's not necessarily going to be a quick conversation, I don't think, but just taking a second look at it might be good.
I've read it a couple of times, and come, to prepare myself what I was kind of getting into for the next 4 years, and my commitment. And I like what I read. I'm not familiar enough with what the previous goals were and proposals made to probably. Well, I could look at it again and see if there's things that I can think of that might be beneficial to add to it. But I thought it was really well written. But I know that 5 years, a lot of things have changed. So there's always room for improvement, and with growth comes new technology, and we probably do need some. I don't own an electric car. I don't know that I will for a long time, but we probably do need charging stations on the beach, things like that. So, yeah. I mean,
So then I guess our next step would be for us all to have a good read through for sort of strategy moving forward, things that don't seem realistic, how can we make them so if we want to keep them, and then come to the next meeting with some notes and ideas so then we can plan our next steps for that. Does that sound about right to everyone? Okay.
Or set it aside as a working group,
Yes.
a small number of us.
Yes, decide if someone's going to sort of take the lead on it or what the next step will be. Okay, sounds good. Then any other topics? Kelsey, was that?
Yeah, those are the only two
Okay.
things.
Excellent. All right, then we will move on to the election of the 2023 chair and vice chair.
I will make a motion to keep the current slate of officers if they are willing.
I like my chair.
You've done well this year.
who's the vice chair?
Vice Chair,
Well,
Mr. Torp.
Since we have a left-handed gavel, anybody else left-handed, then it has to be Adrian.
I second your motion.
Okay.
All right, I'm always terrible at the procedure here. What do I say?
Ask if there are any other nominations.
Are there any other nominations?
Hearing none.
Okay, I hear none. Then
Call the question.
okay, so then all those in favor of keeping the chair and vice chair sitting for the 2023 year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None opposed. All right, it
That
passes.
That train was on its tracks.
All right. Thank you for that vote of confidence as well.
You've done a great job.
All right then, we will move on to committee member announcements. Does anyone have anything they'd like to announce, share?
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
Tomorrow night, Cape Canaveral, 6 p.m., they're going to be talking about how they are going to handle stormwater and low impact development in Cape Canaveral. And there have been 2 sessions before this. Kelsey was at one of them. They were pretty informative. And it's at 6 p.m. again tomorrow night, and it's at the City Hall.
And what part of the government is that? Their sustainability committee?
It is the city staff up there is doing,
City staff.
Zach has been
Okay.
doing the show on that.
Okay.
As Kelsey mentioned, on the 18th, we're going to be planting COs at the south end of Shepherd Park. And,
Was that 9 a.m. to 11 a.m.?
Yeah, something like that.
9 to 11:30,
9
or
to
until all the plants are gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many plants you got coming? Roughly? 1,000?
Closer to 2,000.
Closer to 2,000?
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of holes.
Shepherd Park is big.
Okay. And on February 23rd and 24th, the annual Indian River Lagoon Symposium is going on at Harbor Branch. I believe, I'm not sure that registration is still open for it at Harbor Branch's website. However, if you can register, you can either attend in person or remotely, and it's been very interesting information on it. There's a lot of research going on that is presented by scientists and actually students at the symposium. It's obviously a 2-day deal. And finally, on February 24th, on the same day as the second day of the symposium, the annual Indian Envirothon, which is a competition for high school students, is taking place at Dale Wingrove Park in Sebastian. And that's what I have.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to announce? All right, then we will move on to public comment. We have an attendee this evening. Do you have any comment to make this evening?
Sure. Thanks
Do you-
for having me.
Can
here.
you please come to the podium?
Yes, certainly. Sorry.
Please tell us who you are.
Sure. Ellen Cruz, live in Windrush Condominium. Just moved here in July from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Loving it here. It's fantastic.
Go
Love living
Eagles.
Here in Cocoa Beach. So I found out about your committee at our Rotary meeting. I'm in our Rotary Club, and I said I would come and check it out, and I'm glad I did. So I'm really happy to see what you guys are doing here. I love the idea of the littering or the smoking ban on the beach. I did see some chatter about that on Facebook. One of the criticisms was if they're not being they're not cracking down on litter, why crack down on smoking? I'd like to see both cracked down on because I do see a lot of cigarette butts on the beach as I walk around. I'm excited about the plastic and styrofoam ban for Cocoa Beach events, and I'd love to see that extended further once we get that going. I'd also like to see recycling at Cocoa Beach events. I like to buy from the little cans from Cocoa Beach to support the Friday fests, but then they get thrown away, which hurts me. And I'd also like to see a plastic bag ban considered. I don't know if that's possible, but something, because I jog, I walk, I see a lot of plastic bags floating around both by the beach and along the roads, and we don't really need them. A lot of people have their reusable bags. It'd be great to at least have some kind of incentive policy where stores would at least charge for plastic bags, which tends to make people more anxious to use their reusable bags. So, like I said, I'm new here, so I'm just throwing out some ideas, and thanks again for all you're doing.
I like your idea of recycling.